There are some souls that meet only once in the endless sea of the universe. Your soul is one of them. That deep intuition whispers that the void inside you cannot be filled by anything else, because there is only one heart in the universe that beats at the same frequency as yours. All the stars, all the prophecies, all the fine lines woven by fate are calling you towards that unique soul. This love is neither an ordinary encounter nor a passing fad. It is a sacred meeting that has been awaited since creation. Write 999 in the comments now. Even the universe is silently waiting for the moment when those two souls will be reunited. Your story will be a longing recall of a lost piece, a miraculous journey where two hearts will unite and rewrite destiny. Let the sky be our witness. Only one soul is truly compatible with yours, and its discovery marks the beginning of a new era. There comes a time when an individual slips away from the grip of a controlling past so seamlessly, it's as if they've become invisible, leaving the manipulator grasping at shadows and questioning their own grasp on reality. What began as a subtle intuition that something was wrong blossomed, over time, into a masterful plan for freedom. This wasn't just leaving. It was an exit, so silent and so complete that the would-be captor never saw it coming, left baffled at how their supposed hold was broken by someone who once seemed entirely within reach. At first, the relationship was painted with strokes of affection and understanding, the kind that draws in even the most guarded heart. The other person seemed to arrive wounded, in need of kindness, crafting tales of struggle that sparked your generosity and care. Each interaction felt special, each confession a bond, until on reflection it became clear that these moments were anything but accidental. With calculated intent, they mapped out the landscape of your emotions, memorizing the levers and switches that would allow them to build a connection on their terms. The phase of overwhelming attention, what some might call a tidal wave of devotion, blurred your vision to the subtle warning signs. You were made to feel irreplaceable, the answer to their emptiness, the hero in their story. Yet behind the curtain, inconsistencies flickered. Something didn't always match the script. Little details tugged at the edge of your awareness, hints that not everything was as harmonious as it seemed. The ability to sense misalignment is a gift, but when everything else feels so intoxicating, those hints often go unheeded. There's a certain type of personality that seeks out those with deep wells of empathy, knowing that compassion can be twisted into a trap if wielded by practiced hands. To such a person, healing hearts are not treasures to be cherished, but tools to be exploited. Gradually, the air shifted. What felt like mutual attention morphed into scrutiny. Small kindnesses were replaced by subtle demands and calculated exchanges. The secrets you'd been trusted with became points of leverage, used to steer you back into compliance whenever you strayed too far from their expectations. Manipulation is often so faint, so delicately applied, that you only see its full form once you look back at the entire painting. Each little act was noted by your deeper intuition, though your mind hadn't yet put all the pieces together. Entanglement deepened as financial matters became intertwined. What started as little gestures, covering for a sudden expense here, sharing an account there, seemed harmless, even loving at first. Piece by piece, obligations and resources were merged until untangling them seemed nearly impossible. The gradual tightening of these ties, each rationalized as a sign of love or trust, quietly constructed an invisible cell, one you helped to build, unaware of its true purpose, until escape seemed daunting. If you feel the abundance of divine love in your heart, Now is the time to share it. You can help spread God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube and contributing $20 or more. This divine gift will touch not only your life, but the souls of many through this platform. Each of you has a sacred place in God's grand design, and your generosity will be the fruit of our prayers. Act now. Share your blessings to glorify His kingdom, for you were created to do even greater things in God's loving hands. May God bless you. Energy began to dissipate like water leaking from an unseen crack. Every conversation demanded you set your own needs aside, managing not only their feelings, but their sense of self. Your natural optimism, once a bright light, was siphoned away as their presence drew nourishment from your spirit. The very intuition that had guided and uplifted you became a double-edged sword, as your insights and sensitivities were turned against you. Whenever your inner wisdom picked up on inconsistencies or unspoken tension, it was dismissed, and you were told that your instincts were nothing but overactive worry. With time, as your awareness grew, the subtleties dropped away and the threats began to surface. What was once coated in sweet words now took the form of thinly veiled warnings about your job, your connections, your livelihood. They let you know, in ways only you could truly interpret, that your world was within their reach and could be unsettled if you dared to pull away. Every carefully delivered phrase was a seed planted to make you doubt your freedom or fear the consequences of walking away. Yet, even as their desperation grew more visible, your wisdom was gathering strength, converting every attempt at control into a lesson about their limits and your own boundless potential. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. There are moments in life where deep within, an ancient code awakens, almost like a lion that's been sleeping in your bones. As threats escalated, something primal and brilliant began to spark. Not panic, but strategy. Not fear, but calculation. You saw how those around you moved, how every warning was a test, a signal, a challenge. When someone plotted to cut you off from your own prosperity, when every password and private details seemed compromised, what looked like vulnerability was actually the opening for your inner general to step forward. They thought they had all the levers, the access, the means to bring ruin, but that confidence would soon unravel. In those same days, there was another kind of guidance quietly operating in the background, a sense of protection that can't be taught, only received. Just as a sailor trusts the wind even in a storm, you found yourself led to new harbors that no one else could find. Whenever the danger felt too close, whenever the atmosphere darkened and tempers sharpened, wisdom was there, moving assets, rerouting energy, building invisible safeguards that went completely unnoticed. Sometimes, a single glance at their expression told you everything you needed to know about the dangers still lurking. It was a season where wisdom was not optional. It was life itself. Gradually, as the truth became impossible to ignore, a new clarity washed over you. The confusion that once clouded your mind cleared as though a fog had been blown away by a powerful wind. Every signal from within, every hunch and whisper became a command. The gifts that once made you an easy target were suddenly your shield, your compass, and your sword. You realized, sometimes painfully, that you were dealing with someone who could never be trusted, whose patterns would never shift, who would only drain what you were willing to give. The biggest revelation wasn't about them, it was about you. You held the power to step off their stage, to vanish so completely that your absence itself became an unsolvable riddle. What followed was a quiet revolution. The skills you once used to uplift others became the very tools that kept you a dozen steps ahead. No longer was transparency a virtue with everyone. Sometimes survival meant secrecy. Every instinct honed in those years became part of a private blueprint designed for your escape. Instead of laying your cards on the table, you now played the long game, predicting actions, gathering information, and storing it away. Each encounter became an act, so flawless and convincing that nobody could see your true intentions hiding in plain sight. The one who thought themselves the director didn't realize you'd quietly become the writer, producer, and lead actor in your own story. Soon, your life split into two realities, one visible, one utterly hidden. Outwardly, you appeared unchanged, following old routines, offering familiar words. Meanwhile, in secret, you mapped new routes, built fresh alliances, and quietly dismantled every tie they'd woven. Even as they watched for signs of rebellion, your real work happened in silence, relocating assets, creating secure spaces, forming contingency plans, and building bridges to worlds they'd never even suspect existed. It was the slow construction of a hidden city under their feet, and they never sensed the ground shifting. Then came the moment of departure, swift as the snap of a branch, absolute as a sunrise after a long night. Your old life ended with barely a sound, leaving nothing for them to follow. No breadcrumbs, no traces, just blank space where your presence had once filled the room. The transformation was so profound that even those closest to the old story couldn't grasp the scope of your rebirth. They never knew the quiet strategist that had been evolving beneath the surface. The person they thought they held captive had quietly become the architect of a life that would never be subject to their control again. It's remarkable how the art of self-preservation can transform a person into something akin to a grandmaster, orchestrating every interaction as if moving pieces across a chessboard, always 2 steps ahead. Routine questions and small talk became more than conversation. They became opportunities to quietly redirect suspicion while keeping intentions veiled in harmless answers. Even as demands for proof or transparency grew, a subtle hand was at work. Resources shifted in silence. Vital details kept far from curious eyes. What once felt like a battlefield now resembled a stage, and the ease with which you maneuvered through these challenges was astonishing. This wasn't just intuition. It was a convergence of wisdom and ingenuity that had been dormant, only awakened by necessity. You honed the ability to study their moods with the precision of a weather forecaster watching clouds for signs of a storm. While their gaze searched for cracks in your facade, you were already gathering knowledge, learning their habits, deciphering their patterns, and detecting vulnerabilities that would serve as your way out. The role you played was so seamless, the mask so complete, that even the most perceptive onlooker would see only what you allowed. Where once there was innocence, now stood a tactician, able to blend in with the environment. Never out of place, always unseen at the most critical moments. You became an enigma, your true self operating from behind a curtain, impervious to the manipulations thrown your way. As you orchestrated this subtle campaign, a new existence was being built from the ground up, one invisible to the eyes that once surveilled your every move. While you outwardly maintained the appearance of normalcy, beneath the surface, you mapped out an entirely new trajectory. Discreet inquiries, new alliances, and alternative avenues began to form a safety net in secret. Everything from living arrangements to backup plans was organized with methodical care, each thread woven into a tapestry that would never be unraveled by outside hands. The dual life demanded patience, discipline, and the ability to trust your own timing, waiting for the moment when action would be safest and when retreat would leave no trace. What truly set this apart wasn't just the strategy, it was the emotional endurance required to sustain such a double life. Day after day, you processed your reality in solitude, holding the line on your true feelings while performing a role that demanded constant vigilance. The awareness of danger only made your resolve sharper. You were no longer a bystander, but the director of every scene. Each new insight brought with it a sense of liberation. Every secret kept was a shield against intrusion, and every ounce of patience invested was a step closer to the final move. Dear brothers and sisters, may God's peace be upon you today. I am here to remind you of a profound truth. Our existence is grounded in God's divine plan, unshaken by the temporal concerns of the world. As the Bible says, whatever is done in faith will return to God in abundant blessing. Luke 6:38. Like that great oak tree, our roots are deeply rooted in God's universal truth. Every step we take, every stand we take, is secured by His strength. And now, you are being offered the opportunity to be part of that blessing. When you use the Super Thank You button and donate $100, this movement will return to you 100-fold in abundance. When the moment of departure finally arrived, it was executed with such accuracy that it seemed to defy explanation. With every detail accounted for, you slipped away in a manner so clean, so absolute, that your absence itself became the only evidence of your existence. Contact methods dissolved, connections were severed, and you watched as the old world unraveled from a safe distance. All the threats, manipulations, and promises evaporated. There was nothing left for them to grasp, only the hollow space left by your absence. Their confusion was a silent testament to the success of your plan. They searched, questioned, and reached into emptiness, unable to piece together where you had gone or how you had outwitted their control. In the aftermath, the peace you discovered was not simply the absence of conflict, but the presence of complete autonomy. Their world, once so carefully propped up by your presence, faltered as they faced the emptiness they could no longer fill. While they searched for answers, you flourished in ways that would have been unimaginable in the old regime. Your resources grew, your spirit revived, and your future was shaped by your own choices, unburdened by their demands. You had become not only untouchable, but also invisible to those who once sought to use and diminish your gifts. This was more than an escape. It was the birth of a life no longer defined by the games or shadows of your past. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. There are seasons in life when the gifts placed within you reveal their truest purpose, not for applause or to simply illuminate the world, but for shielding your spirit from those who would gladly trade your gold for their own gain. Wisdom began to unfold in unexpected ways, showing you that sometimes the greatest form of protection is not open-hearted innocence, but the ability to weave a cloak of discretion around your light. This experience became your proving ground. You learned that true discernment means knowing when to be visible and when to slip quietly out of reach, when to speak truth, and when to let silence be your sentry. The path to wholeness sometimes passes not through gentle surrender, but through the sharpened awareness that not every hand extended to you means well. With each step, your spiritual instincts sharpened like a hawk's vision, reading intentions before words left anyone's mouth, sensing the subtlest shift in energy long before trouble could reach your door. The lessons went beyond kindness and empathy. They became a curriculum in strategy and resilience, teaching you to recognize the faintest signals of manipulation or neediness cloaked in charm. You no longer confused kindness with compliance. Instead, you learned to guard your inner garden with a wisdom that neither gives away trust too easily nor lets fear build walls. In this crucible, your gifts matured from simple intuition to a sophisticated radar system, capable of distinguishing friend from opportunist with a clarity others might never develop. Think of a great lighthouse standing firm on a rocky shore, its beacons sweeping over stormy seas, never drained by the endless tide, but always shining for those who truly seek safe passage. This is how you learn to live, shining your light, not for every passing ship, but for those who are ready and willing to honor the journey. There was a season when you gave yourself away to any soul in need, pouring out energy until you felt as empty as the vessels you tried to fill. But through wisdom and hardship, you discovered that true compassion doesn't mean letting your flame burn out for someone else's comfort. You let your heart deepen, but you also learned to build the walls that protect your spirit from being ransacked by the careless or the cunning. No longer are you called to play the savior for every wandering stranger. Instead, you're led to invest in what is worthy, letting your kindness take root in lives that are ready to grow. Where once you felt obligated to show up in every storm, now you can choose your peace over proving your worth. You have found the strength to hold your tongue when conflict tries to drag you back into old dramas, and you know how to quietly exit a room where your value is misunderstood or misused. Your discernment has become your shield. It guides you through conversations like a seasoned ambassador, sometimes using a gentle word to calm the waters, sometimes simply leaving without explanation. There is power in your presence now, a quiet authority shaped by the fires you've walked through. You know when to open your gates and when to stand guard at the tower. The peace you carry comes not from avoiding struggle, but from learning that not every cry for help is your calling, and not every open hand is meant to be filled. That's how you know you've grown, when your compassion remains vast, but your boundaries are as immovable as the lighthouse itself. Now, every area of your life has been restructured by this transformation. You navigate the world with a confidence that cannot be explained, only felt. The shackles that once tried to keep you tethered are gone, replaced by a foundation so secure that no outside storm can shake it. Those who meet you now often comment on the certainty in your voice, the grounded peace in your presence. They sense a shift they can't name, not realizing they're witnessing the fruit of battles won behind closed doors, where your faith and intuition carried you to victory against overwhelming odds. As you look back, there may be moments of wonder. Did those who underestimated you ever realize they'd been outplayed by someone they mistook for naive? Do they see that the gentle compliance was a calculated shield, not weakness? The true genius of your journey is that those who attempted to bind you never understood how fully you had mastered the art of quiet strategy. And that, in the end, is why you have stepped into a freedom they cannot touch, building a life designed by your own insight and courage. What was once an ordeal is now a wellspring of wisdom and personal power. The lessons learned have shaped you into a presence so steady and so rooted that it cannot be undermined. You've discovered reserves of strategic intelligence that many never find, and your victories, though perhaps uncelebrated in public, are immortalized in the freedom you now enjoy. In breaking free, you've become a living testament that true strength is not just in withstanding adversity, but in mastering the art of emerging from it transformed, untouchable, unbreakable, and ready to chart your own course without apology or fear. Now is the time to share God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube. You can contribute to His plan and be a part of this divine mission with a donation of $100 or more. Every gift reflects God's generosity, and I believe it will return to you exponentially far beyond your expectations. Remember, His protection and blessing is on your every step and every donation. You become part of His divine plan. You are a strong, radiant being, unshakable as His mighty rock. Witness God's miracles. Feel the fruits of your generosity in your soul and illuminate the world with confidence and courage. Be blessed and let the light of the Lord guide your path. There comes a day when the only applause that matters rises not from a crowd, but from the deepest part of your own being. The part that remembers every battle, every lonely choice, every time you traded false comfort for genuine liberation. In that quiet, private celebration, you recognize the sacredness of breaking free, of building a future by your own design, untouched by those who would rather see you dim your light to soothe their fears. The true ovation isn't noise from the outside world. It's the resonance in your spirit when you know you've moved beyond mere survival and into your divine inheritance. The cosmos itself seems to nod in approval, as if all of creation witnessed your journey and now honors the courage it took to choose self-respect over smallness, clarity over confusion, destiny over delay. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. This isn't just a chapter where you found peace by running from trouble. The victory you crafted is a living presence, a garden of wholeness that continues to bloom because you dared to plant seeds where others saw only barren ground. Those who walk the path of awakening don't just sidestep adversity. They gather every broken shard and forge it into a crown. True alchemy happens when your former wounds become the fuel for transformation, and the chains meant to hold you back are melted down to forge the armor of your new life. Where others once expected you to crumble, you've become an architect of possibility, a living reminder that the real test isn't just in surviving storms, but in learning to dance in the rain and thrive when the world expected your silence. When a soul is refined through hardship, it learns to move with a different power. The radiance you carry now is impossible to mimic, born not from borrowed strength, but from the sacred fires you walked through and survived. Those who once tried to bind you, whether through subtle control or outright opposition, now face a mystery they'll never solve. Every attempt to read your intentions will be met with a fortress of wisdom, every old tactic rendered useless by the insight you gained behind closed doors. Your journey has rewritten the rulebook. Your spirit is shielded not by arrogance, but by the earned knowledge that freedom cannot be handed to you by those who profit from your captivity. It is claimed, step by sacred step, by the one who will never again give away their keys. What you have become can't be contained by the old definitions of success or strength. The reward for this journey isn't some trinket to put on display, but a life that pulses with authority, clarity, and creative power. There is a lightness to your stride now, a quiet certainty that needs no defense. Anyone who would seek to confine or diminish you will find themselves lost in a maze they built for someone who no longer exists. No one can wear the crown of their own victory for you. It is molded by your own hands, and you alone know the cost and the glory of rising beyond victimhood into the role of creator, guide, and guardian of your own destiny. The lessons you've lived have become a beacon, not just for yourself, but for anyone who witnesses your journey. Those who believed you would stay broken now glimpse a force that's untouchable and pure, a testament to what happens when a soul refuses to settle for a life dictated by anyone else's limits. You carry the quiet might of someone who has outgrown every cage and knows the way out. In the story of your life, the truest standing ovation is not thunderous applause, but the peaceful assurance that you've done what few ever do. Transform every trial into a triumph and emerge unbreakable, undiminished, and wholly free.